Listeners, welcome to Master Race Frankenstein Radio, and I'm here with Mr. Elric. How do you do, my brother?
Yeah, pretty good, man.
Good, man. I feel sometimes when I see myself and I see how I act, I think of Jimmy Fallon, and I totally gross myself out. Am I just fucking gay? Am
Well,
I
no, that
faking
would be
gay?
me. I don't think so.
I see Jimmy Fallon. I see Jimmy Fallon now. Ooh, why do I see? I don't want to be like Jimmy Fallon. All right. Take me out of this mind frame. Let's talk about something else.
Well, okay, so that story I was going to tell you before we went live. I don't know if I ever told you this. When I first went to Navy Basic, for the first several weeks of that, my boot camp instructors, that we called them RDCs, they were completely convinced that my real name was Anthony Green.
I remember that.
And I didn't let up the act until I think it was like 4 or 5 weeks in, when they were handing out not uniform items. There was something else. Uh, they were handing out something that had our names on, like attached to them. And somebody went, "Who the fuck is Elric Sullivan?" And then I had to break character at that point, and they drilled my ass for that. Uh,
So, how did that bit start? How did you begin as Anthony Green when you joined the army?
there, well, I didn't do that when I was in the army. This was in 2011 when I was Navy. I went blue to green in
Navy.
2016 for people who are
That's
joining
right.
and watching. Uh,
What were the
anyway,
circumstances surrounding being known as Anthony Green?
I just decided to act like Anthony Green at one point during day one, and it just sort of stuck. Like, the people around me, I don't know if they knew that I was fucking around or not, and that sort of makes it better, right?
Do you mean that you were just addressing yourself as Anthony Green, or that you were living as the character?
I was just addressing my, well, when you say that, I did the voice and everything. Anthony.
Yeah.
I I did the whole 9 yards around my RDCs, but yeah,
That's
that's all I really have to say about it.
that's pretty
They
hardcore, man. Way to go. I love
yeah
hearing it.
they destroyed my ass for like an hour.
What did what did they have
They
to
called it
say?
IT.
Hey
They
Rafi, hey
didn't really
RDCZ.
they didn't really address the Anthony Green bit in particular. It was they were mainly just shouting orders for me to do certain strenuous exercises for about an hour.
Oh dude. Listen to this. Okay, so when my old channel, like, I don't know, maybe a few weeks before I deleted it. Somebody I got to know this guy who was posting in my comment section. His name was Sudani Dan, and you click on his picture, and it's just a bald white guy and just with his face painted black. And whenever he talked in the comments, he used like a Jamaican patois, and it was very funny. And he started messaging me on Telegram. He said that he was a, a very autistic English man, and
Oh,
he would send me videos, and he would talk to me in full blackface, and we were planning on doing a show where he comes on as Sudani Dan. And man, he chickened out and he disappeared on me. Isn't that terrible?
Jesus, what a loser.
I want so badly to talk to Sudani Dan.
I'm sorry you didn't get
Anyway,
that opportunity. That sounds like a fucking character. Yeah, anyway.
characters are so fun, aren't they?
Yeah.
Characters, if you think about it, because we were talking about models. What is a character but a model? Isn't everything a model except for the man himself? Or is the man himself, even to a certain degree, a model? And a model of what? What do you think of that?
A model of what? What a question. Uh, I'd prepared to talk about this, like I was alluding to earlier, in epistemological terms or epistemological terms. Uh, are you familiar with Rene Descartes? Of course you are.
Descartes? I know all of Descartes.
Descartes. I'm sorry, I don't know how to
Yeah,
fucking
yeah.
pronounce his
Rene
name.
Descartes, he said the most amazing thing I've ever heard. I think, therefore I am.
Yes, directly relating to the mind-body problem.
Amen.
Uh, there's essentially two schools of thought, as to my understanding of the way that epistemology is functionally discussed. It's either materialism, that is, everything can be explained as being an object of science that can be observed, studied, divided, broken apart, and looked at. And then there's dualism. This, I'm abstracting a little, but the idea is that the mind kind of doesn't behave like a physical thing per se. There's no way to observe it, right? It's not something you can touch. And yet, here we are. Obviously, both of us are conscious beings that have minds, right? Minds that perceive themselves to be indivisible, unlike the body, which can be divided. You can take off an arm and it's still a human body, right?
Sure.
But how do you cut off a piece of the mind? How does that work?
I don't think you
Does it
do.
work? Is that a thing? Yeah, exactly. Now, there was a very interesting experiment I read about related to this. Are you familiar with the split brain experiment?
No.
So I forget the doctor's name, but I promise I'm going somewhere with this. Uh, there was a doctor who, for some reason, concluded along the lines that, okay, so the corpus callosum, the connective nerve endings that are in between the two hemispheres of your brain, somehow that is related to like severe protracted epilepsy. So the solution that he came up with, and I believe this was in the 50s, 60s, was to sever those nerves connecting the two hemispheres of the brain. And what he discovered during clinical trials on humans of this was that they developed independent cognition to a degree. Now, of course, because of the nature of this problem, you can't just ask the person, "Hey, what's it like having two brains?" Right? Like that's a difficult question to even contend with, even when you're the person, right?
This doesn't make
So,
sense to me. I'll let you finish.
there's still some debate on this subject, but basically, even though the brain is divided, as it were, uh, through clinical studies beyond this one doctor, essentially there's a single consciousness between both of those hemispheres. It's just that they have independent perceptions. It's they even sometimes act independently of one another, but yet it's still a single person's consciousness underneath all that. So that
That's
kind of calls
amazing.
into question the materialist stance on epistemology. You we have divided the brain, and yet there seems to be a single consciousness. So to get back to the subject of models, how do you model a human brain when you can't even touch it or describe it really purely scientifically, at least with present understanding? Sorry, that was a total tirade, but do you see what I'm trying to connect here?
Yeah. Um
It's a
excuse me.
tough question.
No, so reduce that question to a single sentence if you can.
Uh, let's try. Okay, I'll start with two sentences and I'll try to whittle down from there.
Okay.
Given that you can divide a human brain into two halves and yet still result in a single consciousness, how do you, hmm, how can you study the mind? How can you model it?
Well,
Furthermore, if, oh, sorry.
these two halves of the brain, they serve totally opposite functions. So why, I don't know, what do you I guess I don't understand what you mean when you say that they work independently together, because that's what they're doing anyway. So I feel like I'm missing something.
Well, the
Like, what do you
clinical,
mean that they're
the,
independent of each other? I mean, I get the
well,
left brain,
they
right brain
perceive.
thing.
Well, you know how the left eye is hooked up to the right side of your brain and vice versa.
Yeah.
Well, this is going to get kind of more in the weeds than we already are, but the result of the 50s and 60s human trials on this to cure epilepsy, uh, they tested by showing someone only in the left part of their field of vision a chicken's foot, and on the right side they showed snow, like a snowy field. And when asked to abstractly, give representations of what those things were related to, uh, for the chicken's foot, they chose a chicken, and for the snowy field, they chose a shovel, which, you know, you can kind of reason how they would arrive at those conclusions. But then when asked what those two things were for, they described that, well, the shovel is for the chicken coop to clean it up. So there's kind of a cross communication thing happening here, but the two halves of the brain are obviously perceiving things independently.
Wow. Well,
That probably made even less sense. Sorry.
it does. Well, sure. I mean, they both are serving different purposes, and so they must work independent of each other, and yet they're guided in the same way. Well, that's what. Okay, so here's the question: where does consciousness come from? I used to say it's obviously an emergent property of the brain, but I don't think that anymore. As I
In
as
light of
I
this
understand it
discussion,
now, it seems that it is a phenomenon that's born in another dimension. It's because we can't interact with it. Yet it is somehow reconciled to our dimension, specifically through our brains. You have this consciousness from another place, reconciled to the world through the man, through his brain. That's what we call God. That's God. So you follow God being logic. John 1, like I told you last time, it says that Jesus Christ is logic become flesh, logos. And so it's you have a certain attitude and you turn away from indulgence, and then somehow the thing is reconciled to the brain. Where otherwise, where does it? How could you account for that using the materialist model? Is your question? Do we have that right?
basically, yes. Basically, yes. Like how does materialism explain this split brain experiment? How do the two reconcile? I don't know that they do. And I don't know that I agree that consciousness is from another plane per se, but I also can't refute it. I fully admit that I don't know.
Well, it does.
Have we proven that, forms of energy exist that we can't touch or interact with? Yes, we have. So I don't know.
My view of that just comes from the scripture. The reason that I have faith in the scripture is because first, before I like got to know any of it, first I was saved, and so that taught me to have faith in the things that I didn't understand, because now I had a testament that it said one thing was going to happen, and it happened to me, and it changed my life. Then I was able to have faith in other things, which eventually revealed themselves. But this is what I believe right now about where consciousness comes from. I believe that it is God, and I think if our Aryans, whatever, the people say they were sun worshippers. Yes, sun worshippers. Even today, Christians are sun worshippers, and it's the phonetic word has a lot more meaning in it than the written word, because ancient people. I mean, many of you know that, like for example, like the ancient Britons, they didn't write; they only spoke, and they didn't write anything down. So there's a lot more in the phonetic word. Uh, where am I going with this?
Take your time, man.
No. Where did I start? Because I started rambling. So the importance of phonics. How did I start that?
You were essentially, we were still on the subject of the mind body problem and how materialism doesn't really reconcile what we observe to be the reality of how we perceive things, like how our minds function. It's just not fully explained by that model. And you were
I've gone
describing how
I've gone and rambled off into the bushes and I got lost. Wow.
no, no, it's fine. I still think that this thread that you've gone on is still quite interesting. I'm just wandering around out here.
I'm just
Don't mind me.
stroking my chin.
I'm just gonna
I
go
wanted
break
to
into
share.
people's houses.
I wanted
I'm
to
not
read
gonna do
you.
that.
I wanted to read you a book.
Please.
I have this. This is called "The Story of a Fierce Bad Rabbit."
Oh, he's fierce and bad.
Yeah, by Patrice Potter.
I suppose you can be fiercely good. Okay, I'll humor it.
He's a fierce bad rabbit. You'll see. You'll see. You're not going to believe what I'm about to show you. This is a fierce bad rabbit. Okay, this is a fierce bad rabbit. Look at his savage whiskers and his claws and his turned up tail. You see?
I do see.
Okay. This is a nice, gentle rabbit. His mother has given him a carrot.
Oh, RDCZ makes a good point. Jesus was fiercely good. Yeah, fair enough.
Amen. Uh oh. The bad rabbit would like some carrot.
Kill.
This gets very exciting very quickly. He doesn't say please, he takes it.
What evil.
And he scratches the good rabbit very badly. The good rabbit creeps away and hides in a hole. It feels sad.
Oh, look at the bunny. Terrible.
This is a man with a gun. He sees something sitting on a bench. He thinks it is a very funny bird. He comes creeping up behind the trees.
Oh my god.
And then he shoots. Bang!
There he goes shooting.
This is what happens. But
My god.
this is all he finds on the bench when he rushes up with his gun.
What on earth?
The good rabbit peeps out of its hole. And it sees the bad rabbit tearing past without any tail or whiskers. That's it. Is that good?
What? I don't know that there was any arc there, but yeah, that was good.
This is very rare Patrice Potter, the fierce bad rabbit. Every time I like to read
Incredible.
it over and over. Every time I get to this is a man with a gun. It makes me lol every time.
No shit.
Okay. Okay, now that I got that out of my system. So, oh, I was thinking about models. That's what I was talking about.
Yes.
So think about a single thing. Imagine you have a single thing, and then you broke it down into multiple aspects, and each of these different aspects were in themselves models of. You have the cooperation of models to create a more complex simulation. You following me?
Sure. Yes.
That's how I recognize culture and society as it is today. It's just an assimilation of a bunch of different models into a single pageant. Pageant's the word that comes to mind. It's theatrical, everything. It's right. Help me.
No, I
Am
see where
I
you're going with this.
delusional? Am I a
No, I
crazy
don't think
guy?
so.
Are we living within models?
I mean, think about even the most basic precepts of what we trust in order to maintain society. You trust in things like currency and in your political leaders to lead, right? But it's all just pageantry. What is
Well,
currency but a model to iterate over items of value?
amen. It's just a model of
It
value. It's an abstraction
yeah,
of this is
that's
what value would look like, but it's an
yes,
abstraction of something that really has no image.
exactly.
That's what I believe is behind the second commandment, where God says not to create the image of anything on earth or in heaven or in the water under the earth. He says make no image of anything. And in this context, that makes a lot of sense, because it all just becomes a model, and you become an idol worshiper, being idle in your worship because your attention's not on the real thing but on a model.
Well, indeed. What is this modern society of America if not the worship of currency?
Amen. But that's a good thing,
Oh,
right? Worshiping currency is good. That's what I believed when I when I was a libertarian.
funny you say that to me of all people. Me, a libertarian, for the watchers that don't know. Uh,
um what does that mean? What does it mean to be a libertarian?
the absolute minimization of government as much as possible and as close to absolute personal liberty as can be reasonable in a human society. So imagine every household is armed, every household can go to work and come home and keep basically 100% of their paycheck to do with what they want. There's no, Patriot Act or Section 702 NSA spying, anything like that. It's just people living the way they want to live, businesses operating generally the way they want to operate. And there are underlying market forces that sort of are. The idea with libertarians is that market forces govern a lot of the bad shit away on its own. Basically, as limited government interference as possible in your private life.
You want to hear like a really difficult thought, a difficult saying?
No, which is why you should say it.
Matt, think about how your vision of a free society is still bound within the parameters of the models that you were placed into. That when you think about what is
Currency.
freedom, you're still thinking in within the terms of the model. Well, how do we have freedom without being worried about the model?
In this context, I honestly see government as the model, like the
Well,
primary. Like you can break down government into a bunch of different components, one of which is currency, one of which is the military. But then there's all these other components that are tacked on at the end. What if we just minimize the number of descriptors of descriptors of certain kinds of value? What if we minimize those, right? That's really what I'm getting at.
you have faith in the republic.
Ha, I see where you're going. Yes. Yes, I do.
Well, do you acknowledge that it has been subverted?
Yes, yes, I do.
So where on where do you where's your where if you see that it has not even that it can be subverted but that it has been subverted, then wherein lies your hope for a republic? If a republic can if you can simply through multiple generations of patience and planning totally subvert the system, wherein lies your faith knowing that's possible?
Do you need some sort of argument to convince you to have faith in God and Jesus? I don't mean that to be confrontational. I
No, no,
mean,
no.
seriously, do
It's a
you
good
need some
question.
object to do you need an object to hold on to, or can you
No.
just have faith?
Well,
Exactly.
what is faith? Okay, so faith is whenever, remember what I told you earlier about my faith? It's that first I received the testimony. First, my life changed. And then my faith was based on the fact that my life changed like that. And then I was saved from multiple addictions and from fear and anxiety. So all of my faith going forward was based on my knowledge that I I abided in the words in the book patiently and I got over myself and I quit worrying about everything except for my peace and making things better where I could. And so that's what my faith was based on, and it's just been up and up since then. I mean, but anybody who has put their faith in politics in the last 10 years has been let down constantly, no matter what side they're on. Like, it's not predictable. All you can predict is that the people that we vote for are going to change their minds and turn out to be our enemies.
True, but to actually answer your question, the source of my faith is the very fact that the system has been subverted in and of itself.
So you're one of the bad guys?
No, not at all. What I mean is that if the system can be subverted, then it can be subverted again. That's the nature of all human systems.
So here's what I think of politics. I can't do anything about it. It's another model. It's another simulation. It's easy to find to have hope that things are going to work out, and you can do that, but it's not a good idea to get invested in the world like that because you can't predict the world because the world is evil and people are liars, and so I'm not worried. I used to be all into politics. I was into the Nazi thing. Dude, I went so far out of my way to try to influence things in a good way and to reach people, dude. I was far out. Yeah, I was flying up to New Hampshire and Pennsylvania and stuff. And it was all futile. It doesn't matter. You can't take control of the circumstances, but you can take control of yourself. And so I don't care about politics because I know that the only way to really make anything happen is not to like hope that the guy I'm voting for is finally going to pass the law so that we can have the funding to go and do the thing. No, it's better if people just get over this whole politics thing and they get over themselves and they look around and they start looking for solutions and actually networking and making real things happen. I mean, politics is just a bureaucracy, and it serves to do nothing but get in our way and stop us with false hopes for multiple generations from doing anything.
Maybe you misunderstand what I'm getting at. Uh, I don't even vote. I don't see any reason in doing so because I agree that it's futile. Why should I trust any particular politician? I I only trust the system of the republic itself.
Why?
The only reason I trust the only reason I trust the republic itself is because it can be subverted. I know that sounds a little circuitous, but bear with me.
Listen here. I hate
If
it when people use big fancy words just to try to make themselves sound perspicacious, just so that you know.
what that word mean, you could tell me what word mean?
Man, it'd be like I read. Means
Well,
that I've read before.
Well, I haven't. I'm gonna, dissolve any illusion of that.
I hate
What I'm
reading.
trying to get at is what I'm trying to get at is that the system is flexible, and eventually the pendulum will swing my way, and it's not really worth worrying about it in the meantime.
Why do you think that? Why do you think it'll? I mean, is it a real pendulum? Is the pendulum actually free to swing? Is it, or is it a model?
No, of course it's an abstraction, a model, if you will.
Every model has parameters. It's based on parameters. Without this parameters, then it's not a model of anything. All right, to make it a
The
model of a thing, it has to have parameters that confine it to representing the thing. So you're acknowledging that you're thinking in terms of a model, which by design is supposed to represent something that's not really there. Why
Okay, I
think
see where
about
you're
it? I
coming
mean,
from.
I halfway agree with. I mean, I mean, I think we agree. I mean, you don't vote. I don't vote. You acknowledge that it's futile. But I watch it happen, and I'm like, okay. I mean, it's just like if I was at a Christmas play and they're doing the nativity, and I'm standing on the stage watching the actors walk around and do the thing. That's like me looking out in the world and seeing politics and all this stuff. It's like I'm just standing on the stage looking around, and they're acting in front of me. I'm so detached from it. It just seems obvious to me that it was created to be destroyed. It's a Greek horse. Isn't it a Greek? Isn't democracy a Greek
That,
word? Oh,
well, I guess the undercurrent of this conversation is that at some point, regardless of where you live, what you believe, at some point you have to agree to abide by some kind of model. Because at some point, reality and your beliefs are going to come, they're going to come knocking at one another, right? So at some point you have to contend that yes, I believe in the abstract nature of this particular model of the world. You remember when we were discussing how all truth is perceived? Perhaps truth itself is not subjective, but truth is perceived subjectively by definition.
we talked about that last time. I absolutely agree because if a person has knowledge of all things, but they can't distinguish between truth and lie, then they don't have the truth. You can have everything but the truth. Well, and that brings us back to consciousness. So it seems like
So
if
you
we,
must agree then, by definition, all humans, the way the terms in which they think are all in terms of models. It's an inescapable reality.
yeah, I agree. Listen to this. Speaking
So
of
how do you
models,
escape that? Oh, okay. Yeah.
well, no, you see, to have a model of everything, you need to really compartmentalize the world, and then you understand it compartment by compartment. That was my Vashad Jackson impression. So Jesus Christ is a model. Think about this. So in the Old Testament, they had these snakes going around biting people, and they were getting sick. Snakes everywhere biting us, making us sick. And so Moses, he had a solution. He crafted a bronze serpent, and he raised it up on a stick in the desert, and he said, whenever y'all get bit by one of these serpents, come and gaze at the serpent I'm raising up, and you'll be healed. And they did it, and they went and they gazed on it, and they were healed. The serpent on the stick is obviously a model, something that mediated, is a mediator of sorts. But listen to this. Jesus said, even as Moses raised the serpent, so too must the Son of Man be raised up, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Jesus is saying there, the actual guy in the story is saying that he will be raised up. The Son of Man will be made into an idol, made into a model to be observed and followed. So it seems like part of the fall of man is that it's necessary for us to model ourselves after an idol. That's what Jesus is in the Nicene tradition, at least. But does that make sense that he called himself? It sounds like he's calling himself a model. Son of Man will be raised up, and if you believe in this thing, you'll be saved.
Yeah, well, I mean, think about the vernacular of being a model citizen. Kind of same idea. Like, I am the model with which you should live your life to some extent, right? Here, let me lay out the parameters by which you should live your life in order to be seen as holy to God, or not holy, not quite the right word, to be seen as wholesome to God.
You know what messed everything up are these dang witches and their magic spells. I, I hate
What do you mean by that?
I hate witches and their stupid spells and their grimoires, and they just go around just messing everything up, and it pisses me off. You know what I
They're
say?
stupid.
Look, think about this. Think about a world like the one that the ancient Britons lived in, where they had no written language. Imagine a time before reading and writing, how much more we could give ourselves to thought and to abstractions when we weren't distracted with spelling words and various grammars and these needless multiplications of words. And so, just like written language, if you ask me, it just serves to chop up a person's consciousness and to forget how to think. People start, whenever you become visual, you're no longer using abstractions. You move Whenever you move away from abstractions, and you forget to recognize them. And that's why people love the world. That's why they like to have their icons and their beads, because they don't have any capacity to interact with abstractions. Which what is truth, except, I mean, that same the truth being recognized subjectively, it requires the use of abstractions. Do you think, am I just being complicated?
No, I don't think so. Uh, I actually have a funny story related to this
Felt
that I
like a
think you'll like.
rabbi saying that. All right, tell me a story.
Did you know that there are some countries in Africa, in particular, where there is no written language? There, I forget which countries in particular, but there's a lot of them out in Africa that just have no written language. They have purely oral tradition history. And in one particular African country, there was a power plant built. I believe this was South Africa, where there was this power plant that just kept failing and failing. And they were like, "Well, what the hell's going on?" And the Afrikaners realized, well, the reason that this power plant keeps failing is because nobody's doing preventative maintenance. Why aren't they doing that? Because since the language, or well, maybe this isn't cause and effect, but I'm just going to say because the language doesn't have any sort of concept of abstraction to describe preventative maintenance, to prevent something from happening in the future abstractly, they just don't understand it. The workers just don't get it.
There is no future. They have no concept of the future.
And I'm sure I'm butchering this story, uh, but to give you an idea, there is no word for promise in a lot of African languages. There's a more literal figure of speech that translates about to bind one's hands and feet. You have to
Yes.
relate it to something physical. You see what I mean?
Yeah, actually, about a month ago, I uploaded a 45-minute long presentation about this very thing,
Oh,
from this
really?
channel called Australian Realist. Yeah, it was at one of these American Renaissance gatherings with Jared Taylor, and it was. Uh, I guess I'll put that in the description of this video. But that's pretty fascinating. They don't have words for things like rape. It's insane. But yeah, I know exactly what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
because There's no way to relate this abstract notion of violating somebody else.
Now, can we?
Like, I get it.
This is kind of racist. We're being kind of racist. We should cut it out. You're not. It's racist to talk about black people, dude. We can't do that on the internet.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
It's really problematic. Hey, fast Ed.
Everybody, go on my Twitter at 123 fake Twitter and cancel me immediately.
Is that your Twitter handle?
Yeah, 123 fake Twitter. Yeah, real, 100% real.
That's pretty good. You always been good at coming up with unique Twitter handles.
Yeah, I'm obviously bullshitting. I don't even use Twitter. I don't understand the reason to subscribe to people who are terminally online, their particular model, if you will, of the way the world should work and how people should interact with each other. It's just nonsense.
I'll tell you the reason. It's because Elon Musk and his team, they are working on creating a model. They're making a model of us. So it's got Grok, right? Grok is the large language model that is built into X, and it's learning about how people interact on X. Fun fact: the letter X it's like one. It's the same as the letter T. They both come from the letter Taw in Hebrew, and it just and
Really?
it's the sign of the cross. That's it. And it just means death. It's the form of a dead man. And so that's the name of it. It's the cross. It's the dead man. That's the name of the website. Grok, the learning model or the language model behind it, that's being built on all of our interactions. Grok is. I told you this the other day. A Martian word in the 1961 novel Stranger in a Strange Land. Grok is a Martian word that refers to understanding something so thoroughly that you become one with it. And so that is what's going on with this whole social media AI thing. They're building a model of us to play for us so that as we because you know what it is, Elric, the global population, at least in the West, is going to collapse very soon. But
We're already seeing.
no one's going to know. I mean, think about our generation and just the people. People aren't having babies. People are obsessed with pleasure, and they'll kill a baby if it gets in the way of their pleasure. But so one day there's going to be a population collapse, and nobody's going to feel it, and nobody's going to know it because they're going to be all invested on the internet, and they're going to be engaged in simulations. So people are going to be going extinct quietly while the simulation plays, like you're walking through a circus.
They're even literally happy to make themselves extinct.
Yeah, yeah, they are.
Sorry to interrupt it.
Well, I mean, it's very dark, man. But you're right, and it's something that Austin used to but whenever I first discovered the question of white genocide, and I'd bring this up to him, he told me that I was arrogant and very racist for even caring whether or not my lineage went extinct.
Oh, but see, if we had this discussion about any other race, I'm sure his tune would change. That Austin's been one of my best friends since high school, but we don't really talk all that much anymore. I'd like to, but I don't think his headspace is really right most of the time for this kind of just discussion of things that happen in the future. Maybe he's African and we don't know.
What happens, and this is what happens to all of us, is that we
That was terrible.
disassociate.
Sorry.
We disassociate from others, and we get plugged into various simulations, and we become programmed by the technology that we're interacting with our whole lives. And so I don't know. I mean, he was programmed with different parameters, right?
Maybe
Maybe
so. His
you're
his model
think
of the
about
way the
this.
world.
There are people who have not been programmed, which it stands to reason that we are all susceptible to it. And I think the only way to recognize when someone isn't programmed is when they're in Jesus Christ, which is when the ego is gone and you have peace. But everybody everybody has like parameters, and if somebody's you have people who can't even have a conversation with each other because they think in such different terms. You ever experience that?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding? I mean, even in high school, I'm sure you witnessed that contrivance between me and other people. Like, of course, I know exactly what you mean when like you just
Literally
can't
can't
put yourself.
communicate.
Yeah, like who the fuck would understand me in high school that we remember if I started talking about, yeah, well, in this classful construction of different data members here, if you put this void function pointer into a private block, like who fucking cares or knows what I'm talking about?
I can't believe that you've ever had friends.
Yeah, yeah, fair.
Well, I can believe it because I'm your friend.
Oh, here's my workplace, by the way.
Yeah, just doxing yourself altogether.
Yep, sure am.
Why you want to do that?
I just think it's a really cool building, honestly.
You like architecture?
Yeah, I do. I mean, for God's sakes, I've been a level designer for a bunch of different game engines since I was a little boy.
That's true. When did you start doing that?
I developed my first Doom level that actually got released when I was 11. That was in 2002.
Based.
It was a piece of shit, but I did it. I did it all by myself using Wad Author on Windows 98. I was so proud.
Do you still make levels, or have you applied that talent to anything else?
I still make levels, but I've kind of moved on mostly from it. I still have a release every now and then, but it's not a constant fixation.
And
Uh,
how much does this hobby of yours have to do with being gay and retarded?
nah, shit. Uh, you're putting me on the spot here.
I'm sorry. It sounded
Now, I would
funny.
argue.
Hope it
I
was
would
for
argue that. I would argue that designing levels for game engines from the '90s is pretty gay and retarded.
No,
That's
I
why.
don't. I was tongue in cheek. It's a creative thing, and you're making, and it's fun, and then people get to enjoy what you made. I see the value in that.
Yeah, dude. Did you know that my name is on the credits page for an id Software? Do you know who id Software is?
Yes,
Uh, my name is in the credits listing for an id Software release officially on all the major console platforms.
that's cool. What game?
Back to Saturn X, which is an add-on for Doom on Switch, PS4, Xbox, all that.
Oh, that's what
Uh,
that is. I had no idea. I just thought that was another little game mod.
yeah, nanonucleonic cyborg summoning. I got paid for that.
That's awesome. Do you have the original MIDI?
Yes, I was supposed to
Please
send
send
it
it
to
to
you, wasn't
me.
I? I'm sorry.
They have a couple of them on YouTube that they've been passed through sound fonts and they sound fine, but I don't know. I love the MIDI. I guess it's nostalgic.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people fucking hate the Microsoft GS wavetable, which is that particular sound you're referring to. I love it. I don't think there's
Yeah,
anything better than just Microsoft Windows Media Player slightly fucking up the channelization of all the different instruments.
it's beautiful.
There's something so charming about it.
Um, so when did you start making music, dude?
I think in like 2007 was when I started. No, I guess I started earlier than that. In like 2004 is when I picked up my first guitar. I was 13 at the time. I still have that guitar too. It's a really nice wine red Fender Strat.
Dude, I still have your bass. I have your black bass. Do you remember that?
Damn. Yeah, I do.
It's really cool.
I've got another
And
bass
I
now.
have I have a Christmas present that I got you in 2012, still wrapped and been waiting for you.
Well, what the fuck?
I know,
You
right?
have my address now.
Yeah, well, I keep wanting to wait till I see you. But I may as well just send it.
Yeah, sorry.
Hey,
Because of work, I haven't had an awful lot of. Sorry.
what is a MIDI?
A MIDI is basically a list of commands that are supposed to be sent to a sound chip. So there's a lot of like weirdness in the way that this used to work in the late 80s to early 90s, where there was a bunch of different sound chips that all had somewhat different capabilities. And it was up to the software to figure out how to send commands to that particular sound chip, right? So MIDI is actually a bit older than that. It's, I believe, early 80s, maybe even late 70s.
And I
Uh,
want to clarify, we're talking about a musical instrument digital interface.
yes. I'm just speaking about it in terms of MIDI files, the way they're really kind of related to the same thing. I'm not talking about MIDI instruments that you actually play with your
I'm no,
hands
I'm just
per
saying that's
se.
what the acronym stands for. That's all. Just for
Oh,
those who
yes.
don't know, since we're talking about it, it's
A
digital
MIDI
music. It's a
file,
digital file type.
yes.
Well, a
A
file
MIDI
type
file is
is
bas-
inherently digital.
a MIDI file is basically just imagine not recording the raw audio of what you're playing on your instruments, but you're recording the way in which you play it, and the computer can decide how to play it back. It's just a list of commands, and the way that most people are going to hear them through Windows is through the Microsoft GS wavetable, like I described earlier. It's just a series of essentially wave files that are triggered by the MIDI commands.
It's a model. It's a model of of sound. Is that fair to say?
Oh, yes, yes, it is.
It's really interesting to think of everything in terms of being a model and what that means. And then there's the question of distinguishing a an authentic thing from a model of an authentic thing. That's where it gets weird. How often
You
do
know,
we interact with models and we don't know it?
how can you even distinguish the two, given that humans express their knowledge of the world or understand the world in terms of models? There's no real escaping that cage, so to speak.
I don't understand a lot of stuff, Elric.
Me neither.
Isn't it good?
Yeah,
Imagine if you were convinced that you knew everything and you
I would
just
kill
weren't.
myself.
Imagine that you just weren't even curious, and somebody says something cool, and you have to say some prick thing like because you fucking know everything.
I
Were
would
you
be
ever like
so.
that?
I would argue like a little bit. Yeah, when I was super deeply into politics around like 2016 to 2020, kind of
Those are
showing my
fun
cards a little
times.
bit. Yeah.
Hey, what was I
Yeah.
like? Talk about what an evil man I used to be.
I remember your girlfriend, Ashley. I heard a story one time that y'all two were showering, I guess, and then you just slapped her face with a turd. I don't know that I'm
That
remembering that quite
that's
accurately.
disgusting.
Yes.
I hope I didn't do that.
I don't know that you did or didn't.
I
I
was so
have no
crazy.
corroborating evidence one way or the other.
Well, I did want that one time I duct taped a dog turd to her back. Um, and then I just watched her try to take it off. Um, I don't remember slapping her. I never really interacted with my feces like that. I know I used to. Whenever we started going to your house, 'cause your mom had all the dogs and they all shit underneath the table. I used to fill Austin's shoes with their turds, and he would, and he fell for it. He fell for it every day for several weeks, and he would go to put his shoes on and they're full of shit. Dude, that happened. Do you remember that happened for weeks? And he would. It took him. It was so hard for him to learn how to check his shoes. Yeah, man. I was like, I was fucking. I was retarded, like properly retarded, where I could not recognize that I was way out of line. And nobody, nobody. Y'all let me do it. You loved me.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. Like probably 80%, 90% of the time, I found it funny, and because I was just a dickhead teenager, I didn't say anything.
Yeah, yeah.
I would
I don't
argue that if
know.
things had been slightly different, I would have done the same shit.
I had that was a really interesting time in my life because I didn't really have friends until I met Austin and Jordan. Um, like I was a coward, and I had a lot of trauma. I had been living with trauma since I was a child, and I was like, when I was a kid, I was afraid to talk. I was afraid to share my feelings with anybody, and I was mute. Whenever I was around people, I was mute and afraid. And I felt that way almost every day of my life when I was a kid. Um, and then I started hanging out with Roy and Cody and people like them whenever I turned around 10 until I was 14, and I I was crazy, dude. I was chasing cars and I was barking and I was out of my mind, and they tolerated me. But I never had a real friend until I met Austin, and then I went from being a scared introvert who's used to being bullied by his own friends because they never called me by my name. I was retard and faggot. They called me faggot and retard. These were my friends, and when I met y'all and y'all liked me and I was able to be social in an authentic way, I just lost I just lost it, and I was so thrilled that I had no filter. I was just so thrilled to have friends and to be myself. It was interesting.
It, of course, helped that, I remember a couple of times where we would stay up until the very fucking wee hours of the morning, play Age of Empires 2 on Austin's mom's PC.
That was the best. Love you back, RDCZ. He says he's 19 and he's afraid to talk to. Man, it's fear is nothing, man. Have fear nothing but fear itself. Fear paralyzes you. When you're afraid, you have no power. Your fear takes all your power away from you. When the truth is, if you just talk, really, what's the worst that could happen? You often find out that people are friendly and they like you, but we get in our own way by being afraid, and it just paralyzes us. It's worse than handcuffs. God bless you, my brother.
Jesus.
Um, what are we talking about?
Talking about playing Age of Empires 2 at early hours of the morning.
Oh, dude, I've been wanting to do this thing. I want to play Age of Empires 2 with you, and I've been wanting to. Look, after nowadays, when I watch AoE 2 and I'm watching them chop wood and I'm watching them fish, and I'm just thinking of everything in terms of symbols, and I'm trapped within this view of everything. Is that everything's symbolic? And anyway, I want to play AoE 2 with you and have a conversation. That sounds great, man. Dude, we haven't
Do you
played in
have
decades. Yes, I
do
do.
you have Definitive Edition or HD or
I
both?
have both and all of the expansions.
Hell yeah. Same here.
Is it how great is it that that game has lasted to this day and it's still so fresh? It's so fresh. I presume it's. I haven't played it in a couple of years, but dude, the community is still very active.
Yeah, I'm sure you've noticed they've added a bunch of new civs. Like my new favorite is the Cumans.
Mine's the Khmer.
Why
Why
the
the
Khmer?
Cumans? Okay.
Okay, I'll okay. I started this. I like the Cumans because they get a fucking siege workshop in Castle Age and a second town center in Feudal Age. Now, the
That's
actual math
badass.
to that, the actual math to that doesn't add up to that much of an economic bonus, but you feel like you get a head start, you know?
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. I like the Khmer because their castle unit it produces really quickly. And even though it's kind of like Zerg, they have really low HP, like 25 HP, but they have super high attacks and they produce super fast. So it's a freaking Zerg
Are,
rush. It's awesome.
are we talking like faster than the Goths?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well,
That's terrifying.
it's it's a novelty unit where it's like super weak, but it's the fastest and strongest thing around, from what I can remember, at least as far as infantry is concerned.
That's actually really scary. Because I mean, what are you gonna do with your badass Teutonic Knights when you get rushed by freaking 10 Khmer castle units? You know that
Well,
took about as much resources to make, probably.
okay, so they would have to have like all of the upgrades, all the armor upgrades. I'd have to have everything because if they don't, then a freaking Teutonic Knight is just gonna hit it once and pop it. Pop, 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 pop.
Yeah,
But
but that's
Teutonic Knights have like
10.
seven. They have like a base 17 attack. So with buffs, and if a Khmer unit's only 25 hit points, it's gotta be buffed. Anyway, it's fun. They have a lot of new fun ones.
Yeah, no kidding. I saw the I saw that the Slavs apparently are supposed to be. Slavs are a little older. They're supposed to be a naval civ now. I don't.
That's
No,
weird.
that can't be right. I'm
It
thinking
can't
of a
be right.
different civ. I'm
I
sorry.
I mean, they have a
Yeah,
couple of C's over there.
Slavs are definitely an infantry civ. I wonder how they
Eh,
compare against Teutonic Knights. It's my old favorite.
You know,
Teuton son.
have you seen Slav spelled and pronounced as slaw?
Yes,
Like they have
particularly
a there's a
particularly
school.
when people say Slava Ukrainian, they spell it Slawa Ukraini. Sometimes I've seen that.
There's a school over here. Well, not where I am, but in Mississippi, called Saint Stanislaw, and it's Saint Stanislav is what it is.
Yeah,
Totally random, but I was just thinking about this. How to people who don't know, these might seem to be two totally different words, but they're the same word. You have L- Latin to thank for that. Latin created the hard, as far as I know. I studied Latin a while ago, but the V pronunciation comes from ecclesiastical Latin. So that you got the normal Latin where the letter V is pronounced as a W. So like a common person is pronouncing it as a W, but in the context of the ecclesia, it's pronounced as a V.
any insight as to why that's the case? Like, why would they do that?
Yeah, because throughout the history of the Catholic churches, they've
Oh, wait a minute, German.
well,
Sorry.
German. What do you mean German? What I'm saying is they have been. They're not Christian. They're not really Christians. They're actually the Antichrist, and they're actively hiding the Christ behind what's called the veil of Moses. It talks about the veil of Moses. When Moses came down from Sinai after God had revealed himself to him, and he had to cover his face. He covered his face so that the Israelites could not see the glory. Paul talks about this in the context of the scripture in Second
Yeah,
Corinthians 3. he tells them that even to this day, whenever the Old Testament is read, the veil of Moses is over them. And
Yeah,
yeah, go on.
we were discussing this last time. Yeah, I recall.
Yeah. That's okay. So anyway, the point is that it's the reason that Latin changes pronunciations is because it's about dicing up the word. All right. Earlier I was talking about what a marvelous, wonderful thing if we didn't have a written language to confuse us because it could be diced up. Jesus is called the Word, and it says when he was arrested, they parted his garments. So think about that. You have a phonetic word. I think I said the same thing to you last time. And then to write it
Yes.
out differently, to write a phoneme out in multiple ways is to part its garments. And Latin did this with multiple things. But you know what? Latin came from Greek, and Greek did the same thing to Phoenician. It corrupted Phoenician in the same ways, and Phoenician itself is a corruption of ancient Hebrew. So it's all about parting the garments of the word, which in Greek is logos, logos or logos. So the word which is logos. It's an abstraction, right? It's just thought. Then you have the phonetic thing, the thought, spread out into a bunch of words. Ugh. That's the witches. That's why I hate witches. That's why I say these witches and the warlocks and their magic spells and their grimoires.
And stupid gay nerds and their gay cauldrons and their magic missile.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Their magic missile and their black cats. Dude, my neighbor is so scared of black cats that he poisoned mine.
What?
He's a very so listen to this. Speaking of witchcraft and the man I had my wife had a black cat that would go by his house, and it scared the shit out of him, and he poisoned our cat, and I found him dead in the backyard one day.
What an asshole.
He's a superstitious mulatto, one of these bayou mulattoes.
No, I'm talking about your cat.
Oh man, his name was Oscar. He was a good
What an
boy.
asshole.
Very good boy.
Sorry.
He was a good boy.
I'm sorry for the loss.
Thank you. Let's keep up with Mr. RDCZ. Reading the Bible killed the spirit of fear. It's more so a habit or something I can't just snap out of instantly. I do know that I am easily able to change thanks to Jesus. Amen, brother. Let's see. It's more so a habit or something I can't just snap out of instantly. You mean fear? Oh yeah, sure. Oh no, man. We can't do anything. We don't get results at our will. We we just have to let go of the impulse to control. And it's kind of like as soon as we genuinely can let go, then we have let go, and then it's gone. It's only while we think about a thing is it real. We can only see the model while we're thinking about it. If you put the parameters out of mind, do you have any parameters? Like it says, why do some people say witches come from Christianity? Like, am I dumb or are they dumb? Yes.
I was going to say the same thing.
um, uh, they don't come from it; they come for it. They come for the thought. What if you're gonna if Christianity is a man becoming logical, right? Logos becoming incarnate in flesh. If that's Christianity, then they're coming for it, but from it, uh, that doesn't make no sense to me. Hey, what do you think of witches, Elric?
I think in the. Oh boy. You know, the first time that I realized that people still believed, like specifically in witchcraft and demonology and that sort of thing, is when I saw, and granted, I don't use TikTok directly, but I saw a compilation of women on TikTok casting incantations and spells to try to defeat Donald Trump. And it was just the most schizophrenic thing I'd ever seen. And that's just my perception of modern day witchcraft and hexing and all that in general. It's insanity. I don't know how else to describe it. It's schizophrenic.
It is. It is. Um, that's about. It's all about manipulation, though. Perception is reality, and they are crafting the model. I mean, I think that's pageantry as much as anything else. I don't. I have a hard time. You're right. You have to be schizophrenic to believe that you're just directing just the raw direction of energy. What is schizophrenia? Think about that. Schizophrenia is the separation of the mind from the body.
Yeah, I'm following you.
I mean, I think that's the exact etymology. And so if the mind is God, logos, and schizophrenia is the state of being an atheist. I mean that literally. Does that make sense?
No, no, I'm following you. I didn't say anything because I don't have a counterpoint to that, frankly.
I'm gonna look up the etymology of schizophrenia. From schizo meaning to split, and phren meaning mind. Schizophrenia is having a split mind.
So would you say that split brain patients are schizophrenics by definition?
Well, the brain isn't the mind necessarily.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. And I was making a joke, but actually, yes, I agree with that. You could say that I'm a subscriber of the dualism train of thought in this regard.
When you say dualism, do you mean the belief in there being two aspects of man, and that's the body and the mind?
There's a couple of different ways to phrase this, but yes, among them, that is one among yes. Uh, Dualism subdivides into a couple of different categories, and some people might think that a spiritual and a physical component is not necessarily the way that they look at the mind body problem, but I would generally subscribe to that because, like I was describing at the beginning of the stream with the split brain experiment, how can I say that the mind and body are indivisible and fully explainable by pure biological reactions? How can I say that?
It's a difficult thing. Well,
I don't think
I appreciate
sorry.
your lack of conviction in things that you don't understand.
That's fair.
I mean, think about it, man. What a respectable thing. Most people have convictions about things they don't understand and they don't think twice about it. How can anybody have convictions about things that they admittedly don't understand? You know what?
Honestly, it seems like a base instinct or some kind of defense mechanism from learning new information, I suppose. Things that would threaten one's worldview. I can see that.
Operating within the parameters.
Yes.
As this is how people are programmed. Did you watch my video about Orthodox Christians being robots?
I'm gonna be honest, I got about halfway through. I didn't have a lot of time today, unfortunately.
Okay, so you saw the important part though, which is just the beginning about the word robot coming from the context of the Catholic Church.
Yes.
Rabota, Old Church Slavonic, a servant. And then it's so funny, man. People hate it when I talk about words because if when people start to understand words, now they have access to truth. But dude, this word heretic, everybody colloquially understand that it means somebody who speaks against God. And it literally means a person who has a choice. So in the context of this culture, you have a robot, which is somebody who serves, and then you have the one that needs to be excommunicated that has a choice. Isn't that interesting?
Indeed. Curious.
And the language, the root of it matches the behavior of the model. It's true, and dude, people get pissed off whenever you start helping people understand truth. And people they lose it, dude.
Well, yeah, when people have a particular perception or a model of the way the world works that they understand in their head, when you violate those parameters, of course, people are going to get defensive. RDCZ makes a good point. It's comfortable. People don't want to have their comfort violated.
Amen. He says even if it's fake comfort.
Yeah,
That what's
especially if
messed
it's
up
fake
is
comfort.
that's like most things, man. Cigarettes, alcohol, porn. It's not real. I realized this anew when I had started smoking and drinking again. So glad I stopped. But I would just get smoking would just give me a headache. It was like a nice thing to do for a little bit, but then I started doing it a lot, and then now I have a headache, and now I stink, and now I just got all these problems. But it was somehow I was still able to say, "Nah, nah, Julian, this is comfortable. Do it again."
Huh.
Even while I have a headache, it's fake comfort in everything. Think about porn. That's the worst.
It's very easy to get addicted to something like that that doesn't really have any obvious, immediately obvious negative consequences. Like the consequences are there, but they're a bit more abstract, right?
Yeah, I mean it takes your frame of reference, like your parameters, and narrows them down to sex. And sex, imagine that. It's easy to imagine, isn't it?
Huh.
Sex becomes the focal point of your life.
It's interesting because I wonder in I've wondered about this a lot, like because for a very long time I would have considered myself very strictly an atheist. Uh, Nowadays, I just don't know. That's not necessarily the word I would use, but I wouldn't call myself super religious either. But in the context of an atheist mindset, what function is there to biology other than to reproduce?
Amen. Samantha has a solution to the atheist question, and she stopped calling herself an atheist, and now she calls herself atheist. It's a simple thing. Just take out the "and."
I see. I see.
Perspective is a funny thing, huh? It's funny
No
how people
shit.
can observe the same stuff and have entirely different perspectives. Where do we get our parameters from? Ooh, trauma. Trauma. So whenever you traumatize a person, then you're able to program them to react to things in a certain way or to think in certain ways. And I think we've all been traumatized and we've all been programmed. Really genius. Genius. The way that we've been destroyed is absolutely brilliant.
You say destroyed. Would you care to elaborate?
Um we we are schizophrenic. Almost all of us are schizophrenic, and early on, we come into life, and I'm speaking broadly, but I think this is true that most people start life afraid. You know, people experience humiliation while they're young, which reinforces their fear. Children are cruel, parents are indifferent, media takes our raw emotions and shapes them. And the enemy of mankind is so well grokked to mankind itself that we cannot see. We don't know his children. We don't know anything. When we have no father, and we're all orphans. Elric, you, even as we lived with our parents, we were orphans. We have fathers who don't know what they're doing and don't try to do anything. And whenever they do try, they still fuck up because everyone's so far away from the truth. Everyone is engaged with some kind of model to try to how did RDCZ put it? To give us fake comfort. And I guess it comes back to fake comfort. That's how we're destroyed, is that in desperation. For me, when I turned 12 or 13, it became cross dressing. And then I did that for my whole teen years. And I felt so guilty. I was so ridden with guilt and shame. And I had this compulsion and I didn't understand it. And I lived in fear with this guilt and this shame. Goodness, goodness, dude. My life was horrifying, man. And then Jared's life, man, he had it worse than me. I was so sure my brother was gonna have a better life than me. I don't know how the fuck but anyway, no, we all go through it, man. We all go through it. We're all deeply ashamed of something. And we're all very proud and afraid of one another. So that's what I mean by we've been destroyed. Uh that's all.
A quote comes to mind from, of all places, Metal Gear Solid 2, old PlayStation 2 game,
Of course,
released
it's
in
you.
2001. Uh, the fake Colonel is talking about, who else but us perfect AIs could possibly wade through this sea of garbage information you filthy humans produce. Everybody is slowly drifting away into their own little ponds, afraid of the broader narrative. Everybody wants to be validated. Nobody nobody is nobody is spoken against, something to that effect, but nobody's right.
How many people in your family work for the federal government?
Not counting me. Uh, I don't think any.
You still work for the feds?
No, I mean I did in past tense.
Yeah, what was that like?
Uh, Honestly, kind of a fake comfort, to put a head on that.
Were you ever
Um,
involved in a honeypot?
no, not that I know of. Maybe.
I got wrapped up in a couple of them.
Oh yeah, because of the whole the Nazi thing.
Nazi, yeah, it's called the Nazi thing.
I just wouldn't know how else to describe it. I don't have any experience directly in that sort of sphere.
It was really interesting, man. So I was in this group called the Manor Bund, and it was a model. I mean, in hindsight, it looks like they were running a simulation, and they were trying to create a model to extrapolate to a larger scale kind of thing. Um, but it was all these guys from around the country, and we were on this platform called Element, and it was a chat room platform kind of thing, and they kept changing things in Element, and they had eventually siloed everybody, and then they and then they just canceled the group and posted, "Hey, so it had imploded, and it was really suspicious how it all happened, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure that was a honeypot, and
Huh.
pretty much everything involving Nazis, this whole white national. Here's a weird thing. Shout out to Brian Grossman. So these Nazi people, they don't. They need infosec is really important, right? And you can't tell nobody nothing about who you are. So you never know when there's a Fed. Yeah, you never know. And by the way, look, if you're not doing nothing wrong, then maybe what are you being so secretive about? And that's what Brian Grossman says. But he's insane. He is a
Huh.
Fed. He is a Fed. No, he says, look, you shouldn't be afraid to put your name out there. Now, You go ahead and send me a message if you want to come harass the public with me about white supremacy. It's funny.
What a strange motherfucker.
Oh, dude, I talked to him for 2.5 hours. You should go check that out sometime. We were on the
Okay.
same page about a lot of stuff, but also, well, the conversation ended with him yelling obscenities at me.
Well, I definitely need to watch it then.
Dude, it's so he shows up wearing a robe and he's in front of a wall of VHSs. Like it's very eccentric. His name is Gross. It's his last name is spelled Grossman.
The irony's not lost on me. Did you notice any stains by chance, or
Um,
was he a gross man? Is what I'm trying to say.
I like Brian. I will say, look, I will say it's gross to show up to a stream wearing a robe, sipping on a big freaking drink. I don't know, from some gas station. He was very slovenly, if I may say so. Oh, here's a fun fact about
Okay.
the letter V. Okay, it we were talking about that letter earlier with Latin and va and wa. So it comes from the letter wa in Hebrew. In ancient Hebrew, it's pronounced wa. In modern Hebrew, where they replaced it with the Aramaic alphabet, they changed the pronunciation from wa to to va, va. So that's where that comes from. But also, speaking of the V sound, the letter bet, which is where we get the letter B, in modern Hebrew, it also makes the B sound. So B and V are interchangeable. Um, my point in saying that is that Slav and slob are the same word.
You fucking took a
So
while to get there, but I'm glad we did.
there, so so there is a connection between being a slave and being a slob. It's a phonetic, it's a Hebrew thing. No one about Hebrew and Aramaic really gives you some context to a lot of other stuff going on. Oh, here's a weird one. The word boca. Do you know what that means?
Are you talking about Bokeh?
The Spanish word.
Oh no.
It means mouth. So in Louisiana, and it was brought by the Portuguese. We got it from the Portuguese. They have this word boca, which means mouth. It was changed to bogue, boga. Do you know that word?
No, but I can see the Portuguese in it.
So bogue was changed. So if you pronounce the G as a Y, which in other languages G is pronounced as a Y, then it goes from being boga to bayou, and that's where we get the word bayou from. Bayou is the same as bogue, and it in turn came from boca in Portuguese. Bayou means mouth.
Huh. I didn't know that.
It doesn't make a lot of sense. It makes sense for the mouth of a river, but to just call the whole winding thing, it
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense.
I don't get it either, blank.
And I guess my point in saying that, other than it being just culturally, relevant to both of us, it's just one of those words that we say, and it has a new meaning, a colloquial meaning that we have always heard, and so that's how we think of it. But we don't even know that that word comes from another word with a totally different meaning. It's so easy. I mean, just think about the implications of this. If we use a language where where other languages have the same words with different meaning, we're speaking in code that we can't even understand.
I mean, that's true, especially of English, where something like 60% of it is just transliterated French. Some of it is borrowed Germanic, Proto Germanic, that sort of thing. There's all sorts of different places where we get our loan words, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And it is it is prudent to your point that we're discussing it in English, possibly the language that exhibits that the most.
You know what? You know what I hate?
No.
Merlin the Wizard.
Why?
He's despicable. This is all his fault. Why?
All he
Why?
all he did all he did was cast his little gay pink fairy spell. What's the problem?
Dude, you don't know how Arthur was conceived?
Not Arthur him, like as in how the character was conceived in our context or how he was conceived in the literature.
Okay, so Uther Pendragon was at war. Okay? He was at war fighting a guy, okay? As one does when he's at war. Um and he wanted to fuck this guy's wife real bad. So he got with his wizard, Merlin, and they came up with a plan. Now, while he should have been at war, he went back to this other king's castle, and in the night, he presented himself as though he was her husband. Um, and he didn't speak. He just wore his clothes and had his aroma or whatever. And it was she presumed that it was him, and so he slept with this guy's wife and made a baby with him, and that was Arthur. That's how Arthur was conceived. And then the guy, I don't remember all the details, but then the guy died, so it's okay. Um,
Huh.
that actually, dude, that happened in the Bible. That's the story of David. One of his own like officers, he saw his Uriah. He saw Uriah's wife bathing at night, and he was like, "Damn, damn." So he went and like tricked her. It was the same situation, and he made a baby with her while his officer Uriah was at war. And then he was like, "Oh shit, man, how do I set this right? That was really messed up. What do I do to fix this? I know. I'll make sure that Uriah dies in battle. That way, I can just go ahead and marry the lady, and then we we could have our baby." And so he does that. But and then that's King Solomon. That's where King Solomon comes from.
Huh.
Same story as
Man,
Solomon came about in the same manner as what's his name? Arthur. Are they the same? Are they the same character?
well, impossible for me to say with zero knowledge on the subject other than the legend of Arthur.
Oh dude, I have this book called Le Mort d'Arthur, and it's just the stories of the Arthurian legend translated from French. One of the later collections. But it's fun stuff. It's all very concise and uh what's his name? Merlin. All he did, he's a liar. You know, s- you call on Merlin and he says, "Okay, this is how we're going to scam them," and it works every time. He's like a great con. That's what he is, or a Cohen, you might say.
I'm sorry to be so abrupt. It is 11:40,
You read my
and
mind.
I really should be getting to bed pretty soon. Any
Well,
final thoughts before we?
yeah, yeah. Everything is a model. You just like you said. And what does that mean? What are the implications? I don't know. Figure it out. We all discover truth subjectively.
I
You-
would argue actually a slight twist on that. Uh, the world itself is not necessarily a model, but our only way to possibly interact with it is through our perception of it, which is our model of understanding, if you will.
I have one thing to add to that, and it's that in it, the world literally is a model of us in Scripture. If you want to understand any of the Hebrew Scripture, you have to remember that God made Adam, He made us out of the earth. And so, literally, the earth is a model of us in the Scripture. Whenever you see earth talked about, it's literally talking about mankind. And it just goes to show how Things, authentic things, have abstract models that we don't recognize as such. And so to have vigilance, I guess, and be wary, friends.
Words to live by, I would say.
Amen. Well, thank you for joining me this evening, brother. It's been a really fun conversation.
Yeah, no shit. Really highbrow.
Well, you be safe, my friend. Talk to you later.
You too.
Thanks.
I'm out. Oh!
All right, man. That's Elric. Thanks for hanging out, Elric. Love that guy. All right. My phone's about to die. Hey, you still with me, Mr. RDCZ? Yeah, man. Thanks for coming by and listening to us. Miss talking to Elric, man. Always fun. You have a good night as well, my friend. As for me, since we're talking about models, I'm just going to present this. This is a white bull with a garland around its neck. It's from the Rex Parade. What's this a model of? Try to stay in the present, RDCZ. Take care, y'all. Bye bye.